Hello my dear students and welcome once again to another video for our class in PF 101 Event Driven Programming. In this video, we are going to build very simple JavaFX FXML application that is going to react to simple click events of a button and will have access also to components such as text fields. Let's get on with it. So for this demonstration, I'm gonna open up IntelliJ IDEA, of course, which is our development environment. Create a new project and JavaFX application. Next, I'm gonna call this basic underscore app and finish. Now it's going to ask us if we need to use Maven repository. We don't want to use any repository for this project, so I'll cancel this out. Okay, and so here we go, and we know the drill. The first thing we need to do is go to settings and set up our not settings, project structure. Go to libraries, we add in our library for our JavaFX, and mine is found in dev sources right here, and there's the live, and click on OK here, apply and OK. There you go. So now there are no errors found in our code. And lastly, we're going to do edit configurations, modify options, add AVM options here, and this is going to be module path, and the path of our module is embedded inside of a variable. So the name of the variable is simply JFX, then followed by add modules. That would be JavaFX dot controls comma JavaFX dot FXML. Click on OK and try to run this program. If the window shows up, then we're good to go. There we go. Now when you look at the SRC, we have here the sample package where our controller main and FXML file is found. The main is where the code started, and so you have here the start command or start method that is being called when you call the launch method within the main. And here we loaded up this sample.fxml, which is this file here, which contains nothing but a grid pane, and we show it. So for this, we are going to need to edit this sample.fxml to put our components and also edit our controllers to be able to do something such that when a button is clicked. So to do this, we open up our FXML in Scene Builder. So right click here and click on open. Wonder what's wrong with this. Open in Scene Builder. All right, so we have here the grid pane. I don't want to use the grid pane, so instead I'm going to delete that, and I'll be using a simple one, the anchor pane. So drag the anchor pane right here, and there we go. Now inside of this anchor pane, I'm going to add a control that's going to be a button, and let's put some text on this button. Say click me, and maybe change the font size to 18 and put this at the dead center right there. Now save. Of course, if we are going to run, as you can see now, it's changed. Our anchor pane is now the root element, no longer the one that was before, which was the grid pane, and we have some children inside of here. If we run this program, it should show up something, but it's not going to be good. See, that's because in our main we set this size to 300 by 275, but in our design of our anchor pane, we had this anchor pane having a size of, let's go to layout, 600 by 226. So let's change that. Go back here, 600 by 226. So now we should get, yeah, exactly what we had. But when you click on click me, nothing happens. That's because we did not put any code that handles that particular event. Now to do that, we need to do something with our controller. First of all, our sample FXML and our controller should be connected. And right now it's not connected because I deleted remember I deleted the grid pane. That grid pane was the root pane for this particular FXML file, and I deleted it. Hadn't I deleted it, it should have been connected with the controller using the controller attribute here. But since I deleted it, it's gone. We need to put back that controller attribute. You can do that here, or you can also do that in the scene builder. So let's just do that in the scene builder. I simply go right down here where you can find hierarchy. There's also controller. And right now there's no controller inside of here. We can set this to the controller, which was the one that we have here. And to reference this controller, we have to say the package, which is sample dot and then the name of the class, which is controller. So here we simply say sample dot controller. Okay, so that way you'll be connecting this FXML file with our controller. Now if you check back on our sample.fxml file on the anchor pane, you'll notice that there's now a new attribute right here, fx controller, which is sample.controller. So this was, if you did not do it in the scene builder, you could have done it right here by typing fx:controller equals this text here. All right. Now, next thing we need to do is to create a method that is going to be executed when that happens. So inside of our controller, after we have connected both our controller and our sample.fxml file, we can now provide here a method, and that method can become an event handler simply by passing inside of it an action event. So for example, let's have public void on button click, and all you have to do is pass in here an event, an action event. And be careful, there are two action event classes in Java, the one in AWT, but what we are going to use is the one from JavaFX, so this one. So double click on this one so that it's now imported, and just provide a file name, variable name for this. I'll just call it ev. Now that we have that, what should this particular button do? So let's just display a message. Let's just display a message box. It's going to be an alert. So let's alert equals to new alert, and this is going to be an alert type information. And let's just display a message. So alert.set header text, and let's just simply say hello world and show that alert. So this is what is being done when this button is clicked. Of course, this is not going to happen yet because what we did here is just define the method that is going to be executed when a button click, but we did not assign that to any button yet. So we go back to, let's save this first. We go back to our scene builder, and now when we click on this button under code, you now have this on action. You'll see there's now a drop down When you click on that, you see on button click. So that is exactly what we have here. In fact, if we are going to add another one, for example, public void on whatever, and then we provide also an action event here, just like that. When you go back to your scene builder and you click on this button, you'll see now that there is on whatever together with on button click. So every time you add a method here that has an action event, is going to be injected as a possible action to a particular component. But in this case, we are simply going to select on button click right here and click on save. So now this button will be accessing or will be executing this method when you click on it, on the on action. So we go back to our project and we run this project and click on click me. We now have this dialog box, hello world. Okay, now let's put this a little notch higher. Let's try to access from components. So let's drag this down a little bit and we can add here another control. This time we'll put a text field. Okay, so there's the text field, and let's set this text field's font as well to 18. All right, and let's put it dead center. All right, there you go. Now, in order for you to gain access to this text field, we need to bind this using a binder in the controller. So we go back to the controller. We need to create here a property that can be injectable into the FXML. And to do this, but you simply write at FXML, okay, and then you define or you declare a property based on the with having the type of the component. So this component is a text field, so we declare here a text field, and of course you need to import that as well and say text field right there. Now that we created this property in our controller, this text field will now be available into our FXML file. So right here, when you clicking on the text field here, when you go to code, you now have an FXID with a text field available inside of it. So you can click on that. That now means that this particular component is bound to this particular property in our controller. Okay, so now that we have that, we can now gain access to the content of this component through this property. So what we do, instead of just simply displaying hello world, we are going to display whatever is the text on that component text field. So here we simply have a string, say message is equal to, and we access our text field through the text field property and get the text from it. And instead of displaying this static string, we display the message. All right. So now, when we run this program, we should be able to enter a message here. Say, for example, hello, Ben. And when you click, you see, it uses the text from the text field as the message or the header of the message. And if you try something else like the quick brown fox, oops, and click on me, and it says the quick brown fox. Now we are able to handle click event with access to other components as well. So to make this a little bit more interesting, let's convert this application into something more useful by converting it into a simple arithmetic operator or arithmetic application. So we go back to our controller here, and let's first redefine our text fields. We'll have field 1. This will be field 2. And then we are going to display our result into a label. So we'll also have another FXML and say label. Of course, label coming from JavaFX scene control, not from java.awt. And we'll have this as the result. Okay. And also we're going to have 4 events that's going to span for our 4 operations. So first we'll have public void on sum. Then let's just copy this one. The other one is on subtract. Another one is on multiply. And finally on on divide. And we'll also need to have a method that is going to validate our entry and save it as integers. Also, we need that those integers to be declared. So we'll have value 1 and value 2. We'll add another method that is going to validate our field 1 and field 2's values and convert that into integer and store it into value 1 and value 2, so that the onSum, all these methods is going to access the value 1 and value 2 instead. So we'll have private. This is going to be a boolean validate. And here we are going to put a try catch on it because we are going to catch number format exception to make sure that the user enters numbers on the text fields, not otherwise. And so here we are going to use of course, an alert. So we create an alert. This is going to be an error. And the header text simply says invalid input. Just like that. Very simple. So here we are going to define first our value 1 is equal to the parse of the integer parse int of field 1 dot get text. Okay, and let's copy this and change for value 2 it's taken from field 2, and we simply return true if this is valid, and here if it's invalid return false. Okay, so inside of our onSum we simply put it inside of an if validate, then we'll have a result is equal to value 1 plus value 2. And then we set this up into our result. So you say result dot set text. Let's put the text of sum and add the result right there. And also let's just copy this for the rest of the operations. This is now difference, and this is minus here. Then this for multiply, this is product, and of course this is asterisk right here. And finally for our quotient, we need to turn this into a float, and this should be a slash, and we'll also parse or typecast this first variable into a float so that this is float divided by integer results in a float. And there we go. Next, of course, this is not going to work yet. We need to do something with our FXML file. This looks terrible. This is not the one that we want. let's put here first this text here, and a label. This should be first integer. Let's also change this font size to maybe 14. Then let's just duplicate this one, and this should be second integer. And we want this right there. All right, so now we'll have our buttons. These buttons are too large, I think. So let's just turn this into 14 and smaller. Right, and this is for add. And just some area to work with, because we're gonna duplicate this one, and this is for subtract. Another duplicate, this is for multiply. And divide. So let's oops, arrange it horizontally. Right. And here we say we display our result. There's our label for our result. And let's align this. Text alignment should be center, or why is not? Also the font should be large, like that. I wonder how to align center. Okay, there you go. This, I think this one will do. Yeah, there you go. And so remove this. Now we're going to identify this and this and this using the FX ID. So click on that and then go to code. Right here, FX ID, we're going to select field 1. This is for field 2. And this one is for result. Now for the buttons, the on action is going to be on sum for the add, on subtract for the subtract, on multiply, and on divide. Also, we need to make sure that our window will have the same size as this anchor pane. In the layout, its size says it's 468 by 285. So let's go back, let's save this and go back to our code, and in a main.java, let's change this to, let's get 468 by 285. Okay, and also change this title as well. Let's call this basic arithmetic. Okay, and run. There you go. So if we type invalid integers and click on add, oops, it's not doing anything. Let's check back on our controller. It should be doing the validate. Value 2, if validate, I think it's not calling our method on multiply, on divide. Five, four, add is sum, subtract is 1, multiply 20, divide 1.25. But for some reason, oh, I know now. I remember. We did not show the alert. Exactly. It should say alert dot show. So, sorry about that. If we type something else, it should show invalid input. We have 8 and 5. You added 13. You subtract 3, multiply 40, divide 1.6. So there you go. We are able to build a very simple JavaFX application that reacts to button clicks and accesses components. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and see you again in the next one.